Hey, this is Mikey with another After Effects tutorial, and in this After Effects tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this 3D button and rig it up so that you can change all the attributes and everything just stays perfectly together. So to create this 3D button, it's really kind of an easy thing to do. So we'll start with a new composition. Let's just make it 10 seconds, even though it doesn't really matter. Okay, so here it is. Let's bring in a new solid. So Command or Control Y on your keyboard will bring up a new solid. And this is just going to be my background. Doesn't matter what color, but that's, just so it's not checkerboard. So as I said, this was done all in one shape layer. So let's just grab the shape layer tool. Make sure that your solid is not selected, because if it's selected, then this tool now becomes the mask tool. But if it's unselected, then it's the shape layer tool. So I click that, and I just grabbed a rounded rectangle. And if you're not on rounded rectangle, just click and hold, and you can switch to rounded rectangle. Okay, so I have my rounded rectangle. I'm going to come in to the shape layer properties. Go to the transform, and let's just center this. Okay, now this first rectangle, what I want to do is I want to stick this in a group. So I'm going to go up to click on the contents, not on the rectangle, but on the contents. Go to add, new group, and stick the rectangle in the group. I'm going to name this front, then duplicate that group, name the second one sides, and let's bring that down to the bottom. So the next thing we need to do is let's go into the sides and into rectangle, and let's change the fill color to something else. Let's go a little bit darker. It's just so there's a difference. Okay, first I'm going to build this whole cube, and then I'm going to show you how to rig it all up together. So next, let's take the sides, highlight the sides folder or group, go into the add, let's add a repeater, go into the repeater settings, transform, let's change this position to 1, -1, and you can see by changing the copies, I've got this kind of extrude going on. Let's just set that to 100, make it nice and large. Okay, now I need to do some linking to make sure that this works good. So I need to use expressions to link the position of this top rectangle, the one that's in just the front group, link that position to the sides so everything moves right. So I'm going to Alt or Option click on the stopwatch, and let's take the pick whip and bring it down to copies. So immediately you can see that it moved, but it's moving in the wrong direction. So what we need to do now is we need to, after here there's a little expression, it just created a temp variable, and then it pasted it into the X and Y. So after the first value, I'm going to put times, and then pick whip down here the first value of the position of the repeater. And then after the second, do the same thing, times of the second value of the repeater. And then that should be now right on. So I can take this copies, and you can see now I can make this button extrude and have a different depth to it. So that's the first thing. Now after this point, we can start to rig this up. So let's close those down, and let's get all the controllers we need in order to rig this up. So we go to Effect, Expression Control. We're going to need a slider. First one we can call Depth. Duplicate it. Call this Roundness. Next we're going to need some color controls. This one we can call Front. Duplicate it. Sides. And then lastly, we're going to need some checkboxes. Let's call this one Up, Down. Duplicate it, left, right. Okay, and for the color, let's just go ahead and change these colors of the expression controls to what we have here, so when we link it back up, it's not going to be just red. So first thing, let's link up the depth. And to do that, we go into the sides, down to the repeater, and the copies. I'm going to option click on the stopwatch to open up the expression, take the pick whip, bring it up to the slider for depth. And now I can control that from here. The next is the roundness. So let's go into the rectangle of the sides, rectangle path, and then option click on the stopwatch for roundness, bring that up to roundness slider, and then we need to do the same thing for the front rectangle path, roundness, bring that up to the roundness slider. So that looks like a square, and then I can now turn this into a circle and everything in between. Okay. The next thing is, let's do the colors. So this front color, let's find the fill, option click on color, connect it to that front one, and then on the sides, do the same thing. So now I can come in, change these colors just from this front menu. Okay, here's things gonna get a little tricky. We need to change the up and down and the left and right. And so how we do that is on the sides, in the repeater, in this transform repeater, we have this position. And if I change this to just 1 instead of -1, then it's moving down. And this one to negative, then it's moving to the left instead of the right. So that's how we're going to adjust this. With these checkboxes, how they work is they have a value. If the checkbox is unchecked, it equals 0. If it is checked, it equals 1. So what we need to do is let's add an expression to this. And what I'm going to do is for the first value, I'm going to just put a square bracket. Then I'm going to put 1 minus checkbox times 2, and then 1 minus, let's grab the other checkbox, times 2. End it with a square bracket. Okay, so now as I click these, it'll change. Pretty cool. So that's really it for the box. So I can come in here and let's see all these controls I can do. I can change this, and no matter how deep this is, everything will switch just fine when I switch the orientation. Now in the example, I had some words attached to this, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So let's grab our text tool, button, let's stick that right in the middle, and what we do is I'm going to bring up the position of the button, and I need to go into the shape layer and go to the front, then the rectangle, let's collapse these, then in the transform rectangle we have this position that we had then linked to, the sides in order to make it move. And so what I want to do is I'm going to add an expression to this position of the text. So option click on the stopwatch, and right now it already has its own value. Then I'm going to hit plus, and then pick whip this position down here. And it's going to move a little bit, but what I can do is I can just then take these values and move it, or I can just grab and move this wherever I want. But what this is going to do is now it's going to link it to the front of that button. So as I move the button around, make it bigger or smaller, then that text will go with it. Same thing if I change the orientation. So that's the tutorial. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned a little bit more about shape layers and expressions and kind of rigging things up. And now what I've done for you is I'm going to have this project file that you can download and be able to explore and kind of mess around with what I have. It's going to look just like this with the button and the text and the background, and everything's going to be linked up. It'll be in an After Effects CS6 version and above, so you need to have CS6 or CC in order to open the project file. And just take a look at kind of how I put these things together, and if you have any questions about shape layers and rigging things up like this, feel free to ask. Just put them down in the comments, and enjoy this free download. Thanks for watching. Bye.